Moving on to our top story, and despite imploring the Lords not to scupper his Rwanda plan, Rishi Sunak was dealt a blow by unelected peers last night, who voted to back a motion that would delay and even foil deportations.
And TalkTV can reveal that the Labour peer leading the charge against the bill on the grounds Rwanda is not safe, Lord Peter Goldsmith, is a barrister who took nearly £400,000 from the Azerbaijan government. Azerbaijan? Sounds like someone from Wales.
Are you going for abdominable
Azerbaijan government,
Azerbaijan.
which has been criticised for its own record on human rights.
The difficulty is that the government has already presented a bill to Parliament asking it to make a judgment that Rwanda is safe now. And yet, on the Home Secretary's own evidence, it cannot be so because the measures are not in place and have not been shown to be effective.
TalkTV's political correspondent, Alicia Fitzgerald, is still with us.
And we're joined as well by former Conservative MP Gerald Howarth. Gerald, going to start with you. I mean, it was to be expected, really, wasn't it? Sort of pettifogging, delaying tactics in the Lords. But do you think the government are going to break with protocol and just ignore them?
Yes, I hope they do, because the House of Lords is unelected. They are there to scrutinise legislation. They are there to give their views. They are not an irrelevant part of our legislature. But here, what we're seeing is a combination of Labour peers who, of course, are hostile to the British government, and the Labour Party has absolutely no clue how to deal with the migration crisis, and former Foreign Office officials who basically really haven't left the Foreign Office, and as we know, the Foreign Office looks after foreigners. This is an existential threat to the United Kingdom, and it will have angered and appalled many people across this country that these unelected peers are so out of touch with the feelings of the people who have simply had enough of this alien invasion into our country.
Couldn't agree more, Gerald. Also, you talk about the Lords, quite rightly. It's good to have an upper chamber, a second chamber that checks our legislation. That is a sound democratic principle. The problem is that the House of Lords is not democratic because no one is elected. Now, I think most of us are prepared to jog along with that not particularly satisfactory system, as long as the Lords, when checking legislation, are benign and sensible. But they're not, are they? They're aggressive towards this current lot. They're aggressive towards our Tory government. And this is just the first in the delaying tactics that will go on and on and on as all of these Labour and Lib Dem peers try to disrupt and block this legislation. And if they're going to carry on like that, then it's like we have to get rid of them. We have to get somebody who is elected, don't we?
Well, I'm not in favour of an elected upper house for the simple reason that it would challenge the House of Commons. You'd have two elected chambers vying for the authority. At the moment, it's perfectly clear the authority ultimately lies with the House of Commons because it is elected and the House of Lords is not elected. But no, this delaying tactic that's going on at the moment, it's worse than that. Yes, it's a delaying tactic and it's unprecedented. This is a motion to delay consideration of signing the treaty. It does not bind the government at all, but it does it seeks to suggest that somehow these peers have a better understanding of the situation than the government does. It is not for the courts, it is not for the House of Lords to determine whether Rwanda is a safe country or not. It is for the elected government of the people of this country. And the elected government of the people of this country had endless meetings with the people in Rwanda and have come to the conclusion that it is a safe place. And it's a jolly sight safer than what those who are trying to get into this country have experienced by putting themselves at grave risk, not just by trying to cross the Channel in midwinter, but also having crossed, in many cases, the Mediterranean Sea, having crossed through foreign countries to get to the United Kingdom. As I said, this is really an existential crisis in our country. And to have these unelected peers with lip-curling contempt for the people, seeking to pretend that somehow they live on a higher moral plane than the people of this country, this is the way revolutions start. And I think the people of Britain are so fed up with this volume of migration into our country. The politicians, particularly in the Conservative Party, do recognise it. The trouble is, it's trying to find a way of dealing with it. And what the government is trying to do is to make it unattractive for people to try to cross the channel. Personally, I think what we should be doing is being a lot tougher with the French and turning them back, turning the migrants back. If they get into the middle of the channel, turn them back to France. France, even the contemptuous peers may well recognize that France is a safe country.
Yeah, do you know, I couldn't agree more, and I'm glad you brought up the fact that anyone who breaches our borders illegally brings with them an inherent threat. We don't know who they are, and they don't know why they're trying to come here. In terms of inherent threats, though, that something also gets stuck in my craw, and this is the fact that Lord Peter Goldsmith has some friends in high places in the Azerbaijan government, that he represented Sberbank, which is one of Russia's top banks. Do you think it's right that those people who have peerages and sit in the unelected second chamber also peddle their wares abroad with such institutions, organisations and governments?
Well, lawyers are for hire, and clearly Lord Goldsmith is for hire. It's up to the people to determine whether the clients that he accepts meet with their approval or not.
But we can't get rid of him, can we? We don't elect him, so we can't decide that.
No, but we don't need to get rid of him. We can just regard him what he is as irrelevant. But this is really a very serious challenge. The House of Commons has got to assert its authority. This bill is not perfect. For example, I think, as I understand it, some migrants will be able to launch individual challenges, but they will not be able to be to go to the European Court of Human Rights. I hope that is the case, that they cannot go there. The European Court of Human Rights, all these organizations were set up in the aftermath of the Holocaust to stop a repetition of the Holocaust in the aftermath of the Second World War, when people just did not travel around the world as they do today. Foreign travel was just not as accessible as it is today. So these people who live in these war-torn countries couldn't get to the United Kingdom, but they can now. And that's another point I'd like to make, Alex, that this country has been very generous in the volume of migrants that it has taken, people coming from war-torn or dysfunctional countries. We are absolutely full up. I've just driven into Ipswich this morning, massive new housing estates being built. We cannot afford to keep building on our country, on our countryside, in order to accommodate 750,000 extra people every year. And finally, what we also cannot afford is to have people coming to this country seeking our hospitality, and then, for example, making bomb threats to a school which has ruled out ritual prayers by Muslims in that school. What on earth is going on in our country when parents are ringing up the school, threatening to bomb it because their children are not being allowed to pray? And these are people who come from countries where, if you're a Christian, you're very, very lucky if you can express your Christian beliefs. This is a Christian country, and those who come to this country need to understand that. If you don't understand that, don't come here. If you are here and you don't like it, go and live somewhere else.
Oh, Gerald, I wish I could bring you back and get
Come back to government, Gerald. Come on, come on.
Every time you come on the show, we beg you, and you always say you've got to ask your wife. Well, get her on next time, because I need a word with her, because we need you back.
Her ladyship is not too enthusiastic about that. But can I just say about your story about the Royal Mail? Absolutely right. They do all wear trousers, but there is a very, very marvellous place called John, who looks after us in Chiswick. And John does tend to wear long trousers in the winter.
There you go.
Absolutely charming chap.
Nifty bunks, look at that.
And I'm afraid these men and women are being let down by the bosses of Royal Mail, as we have seen in the post office. Royal Mail faces a problem, of course, in that they are challenged by incredibly efficient delivery companies like obviously Amazon and DPD and so on. But the universal post is very important. And one of your commentators, your viewers, said that it is very important that post office, if Royal Mail goes, letter writing will go, and letter writing is going to be very important because it's more difficult to destroy letters. We've seen how Nicola Sturgeon can completely eliminate all that she said on WhatsApp. You can't eliminate everything you put on paper to other people.
Gerald, fantastic to talk to you. Couldn't agree with you more. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Always a pleasure.